Hey, YouTube here, going to talk about things going on in the world around us, and I'm finally getting around to the Biden town hall. It actually took me a little longer because it's getting a little hard to track down. CNN has even removed it from their own YouTube page because they want everyone to forget the bumbling mess that Biden was. I don't know if you guys knew this, but this is like the lowest rated town hall in the history of cable news. It's amazing too because Biden, he's been not answering questions to the media. Uh, Big contrast between him and Donald Trump. Donald Trump was answering questions in the media daily. Now we have Biden, who doesn't even show up to answer those questions. And when he does, he looks confused. And this town hall was no exception. So I've taken the bullet for you guys. I have watched the town hall, and I will be highlighting some of the things that happened and some of the things he said and some of the stuff I want to talk about. So here we go. First question. For those of you who watched the town hall, out of the gate, for the first 20 minutes of it, it's talking about the thing in the arm and how important it is for Americans to get it. So here's his answer.
10,000 people have recently died. 9,950 of them or thereabouts are people who hadn't been vaccinated. This is a simple, basic proposition. If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. So it's gigantically important that we all act like Americans or care about our fellow Americans. There's legitimate questions people can ask that they worry about getting vaccinated, but the questions should be asked, answered, and people should get vaccinated. But this is not a pandemic.
This is not a pandemic. I think that's once again Biden speaking the truth on accident.
We've made sure that since I got in office, we've inoculated over 160 million people. 85% of people over the age of 50. Anyway, it's frustrating.
What do you say?
Yeah, so, okay, two things. First, he said if you get it, or you won't end up in the ICU or die, which is false. CNN even afterwards couldn't protect him from that falsehood. It's not false. I mean, it might reduce your chances, sure. And then the second thing he points out, 165 million doses have been administered. Where did those doses come from? They came from the Trump administration, Operation Warp Speed. And it's funny, too, when Trump was in office, Kamala Harris stated, "I do not trust any drug that comes from that president." She tweeted that. Now that she's in power, now that she's second in command, no issues handing that out to 265 million people. And these questions of thing in the arm went on for like 20 minutes. And at the end of all those barrages of layups and assisted answers by Don Lemon, Biden finally started to unravel. And here that is.
2 weeks ago. I hadn't seen my family for 2 years since the last time they visited me 2 summers ago. But even within my own family, here I am on television every night. There is ambivalence, there's misinformation, and there's also mistrust in the system.
Mistrust in the system, meaning the media and the government.
How do you fix that?
Well, I think it's going to seem like a non-answer.
It is a non-answer.
To start with.
He's out
One
of
of
breath.
the things I said when I ran for office, it's not Democrat, Republican again, is we've got to restore faith in government. You got to get people to the point where they trust government. And I made a commitment that when I made a mistake, I'd tell you. And I've made mistakes. And when I think I got it right, I'll say it. But I'll take responsibility for what I do and say. Part of it is just generally, no, I don't mean that. Part of it is generally raising confidence in elected officials.
It's really hard to do right now, considering what's been going on in Arizona and Georgia.
Raising confidence. And I know this is going to sound like a non-answer to you, but part of this is that, you know because you're one of the most informed journalists in the country. You know the criticism I got by saying I want to unite the country. I said, you can't unite the country. Well, if we can't unite the country, we can never get some of these problems solved. And that goes to trust. Why can't you unite the country? Why isn't there a willingness to trust? Government trust is really was at an incredibly low ebb. It's coming up some. So with regard to your family in particular, part of it is not just that they see you on television and trust you. The people who seem to have the most impact are you know, that for that 17-year-old kid, the kid he or she plays ball with. You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem, no, it works. Or you know, or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're, no, I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon, or whatever, you know, something, or, you know, whether those aliens are here or not, you know, who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about it? They go to people they respect.
All right. So, non-answer, but basically it's up to the people to convince each other that the thing in the arm is safe. Well, as someone who is part of the people, let me just chime in. First off, the whole aliens and moon landing thing is saying don't trust the conspiracy theorists, which is a really old adage that's getting tired from government officials, especially lately. But specifically, let's talk about this. Another series of questions that Biden kind of barely made it through was, when are kids under the age of 12 going to get the thing in the arm? And where's that coming from? Because according to Johns Hopkins University, once a very respected medical organization, now something, if you post this information, you can get shadow banned on Facebook or blocked on Twitter, pointed out that since the COVID began in 2020, there hasn't been a single death under the age of 18 without a comorbidity, and comorbidity being cancer, leukemia. So the leading cause of death is probably that comorbidity. And including the comorbidities being, again, cancer, leukemia, serious things. It's only 350 people, 350 kids. Yet, there are school boards across the country saying kids should wear masks until they're vaccinated. One more quick thing to point out about masks. You go on a flight with a 2-year-old. You have to put a mask on that 2-year-old. But according to the World Health Organization, anyone under the age of 5 should not be required to wearing a mask. To wear a mask. So where is this coming from? Where is this idea that under the age of 18 they'll have to wear a mask until they have vaccinations? Well, let's just share this, because this is a very, very important thing I need to share everywhere I can. But the American Academy of Pediatrics wants all kids masked until unvaccinated. That's, again, the most influential medical anything for kids under just kids in general. Let's go to their website and see who their biggest donor is. Pfizer. Pfizer is their biggest donor. Pfizer being one of the leading distributors of things in the arm. And in fact, the first place that said, if you get the thing in the arm, you will probably need a booster shot, as many as every 6 months, in order to prevent you from getting COVID-19. None of this, by the way, even mentioning anything about ivermectin or the aforementioned treatment of COVID. The president mentioned that got him banned off of social media. Pfizer, by the way, and Moderna, they're both mRNA vaccines, and they're both things that one of the creators of the mRNA vaccine said will be a big risk, and people who are young and healthy probably shouldn't be required to get. So a whole lot of falsehoods. CNN couldn't even protect Biden from that falsehood. Even they pointed out that it is false, that if you get the thing in the arm, you will not die of COVID. Another reoccurring theme, as we saw in this transitional statement, conversation had between Don Lemon and Biden is how do we restore the faith in government? How do we get people respecting the institutions again? The institutions like the mass media that has been bought off by Big Pharma and Joe Biden, who is untrustworthy in the first place. Well, here's where that conversation ended up, and it's a fascinating place.
Are real. Compromise within my own party between the far left and the center and some of the folks who are more conservative. That's coming together. They said that would never happen. But if you notice, it has happened.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about bipartisanship. You know, the Republicans removed all their picks today for the January 6th committee, the select committee. Nancy Pelosi rejected 2 of them.
Nancy Pelosi said, we don't want anyone who's not going to toe my line. Let's just talk about January 6th really quick. Do you know who gave the order to stand down to not have added security in front of the Capitol building on January 6th? Well, the only person with enough power to do so would have been Nancy Pelosi. So it is absolutely within her best interest to have control over who's in that committee. So if we want to talk about trust in government, here's something very untrustworthy. Just like the 9/11 Commission, they're investigating themselves. And even our rhinos, Republicans in names only, are not putting up with it.
The first thing I want to ask is, what's your reaction to that? But number 2, if Republicans and Democrats can't come together, right, to investigate the biggest attack on our Capitol in 200 years, what makes you...
Not the case. There was a bombing in the 80s, and the lady who was in prison for that bombing of the Capitol in the 80s was pardoned by Bill Clinton. And guess what? Now she is on the board of directors of Black Lives Matter. Go figure.
Do you think that they can come together on anything?
These people. No, I mean it. I'm not being facetious. Democrats and Republicans. I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. The fact is, you can't look at that television and say, nothing happened on the 6th. You can't listen to people who say this was a peaceful march. No, I'm serious. Think about it. Think of the...
This airing, by the way, on CNN, where you had a reporter standing in front of a building burning down saying this was a mostly peaceful protest.
Things being said. I've been through the other end of this when the Democrats 35 years ago were way off to the other side. Think about it.
But what you can do, though, what they can do is try to change the narrative and say, well, why wasn't Nancy Pelosi prepared? Why weren't the Democrats prepared for that to happen?
No, they can say that, and you can make honest judgments about it. Look, I sometimes get myself in trouble for what I'm about to say. Not that I ever get in trouble. As you've heard me say before, no one ever doubts I mean what I say. The problem is I sometimes say all that I mean. But all kidding aside, I have faith in the American people. I really do, to ultimately get to the right place. And by the way, many times Republicans are in the right place. I don't mean that it's only the Democratic point of view, but some of the stuff, I mean, QAnon, the idea that the Democrats or the Biden is hiding people and sucking the blood of children and no, I'm serious. Now you may.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop it there. At least Joe Biden prefaced it with this. Sometimes I say things that get me in trouble, highlighting that some people believe that there are people within certain parties that do drink the blood of children. If there's one guy in government we'd think would do it, it'd be Joe Biden. He sure loves the smell of children. Just saying. So, yeah, this whole Joe Biden weird hour kept going, and then it got into two aspects of authoritarian ridiculousness towards the tail end of this town hall. So once again, sharing here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is a restaurant owner of many restaurants, who came on to question, what do we do to get more people working in restaurants? to get the restaurant industry back up and working. Joe Biden's answer is insensitive at best and disrespectful, probably likely. And I'll talk about that on the other end.
Restaurants across the country, Mr. President. He is a Republican. John.
Hi there, Mr.
John.
President. Hi. Thank you for taking my question tonight. We employ hundreds of hardworking team members throughout the state of Ohio and across the country, and we're looking to hire more every day as we try to restart our restaurant business. The entire industry, amongst other industries, continue to struggle to find employees. How do you and the Biden administration plan to incentivize those that haven't returned to work yet? Hiring is our top priority right now.
Well, two things. One, if you notice, we kept you open. We spent billions of dollars to make sure restaurants could stay open. And a lot of people who worked as waiters and waitresses decided that they don't want to do that anymore because there's other opportunities at higher wages, because there's a lot of openings now in jobs. And people are beginning to move. There's some evidence that maintaining the ability to continue to not have to pay your rent so you don't get thrown out, and being able to provide for unemployment insurance has kept people from going back to work. There's not much distinction between not going back to work in a restaurant and not going back to work at a factory. So people are looking to change opportunities, change what they're doing. My deceased wife's father-in-law was a restaurateur up in Syracuse, New York. And by the way, he tried to convince, he had a restaurant that was in a town called Auburn, about 20,000 people, which was sort of flagship 24-hour a day restaurant that, and he offered it to me, which I would have been making 5 times what I would in law school, to try to keep me in Syracuse. But I spent too many times at home in his home, hearing a phone call. The cook didn't come in. He's in fight with his wife. What's going on? So
Exactly.
God love you doing what you do. But all kidding aside, I think it really is a matter of people deciding now that they have opportunities to do other things, and there is a shortage of employees. People are looking to make more money and to bargain. And so I think your business and the tourist business is really going to be in a bind for a little while. One of the things, we're ending all those things that are the things keeping people back from going back to work, et cetera. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But my gut tells me that part of it relates to, you can make a good salary as a waiter or waitress. One of my sister-in-laws is a
Vaughn is asleep during this thing, and you look at the expression of this restaurant owner, is very frustrated with the response. And a little bit more.
5 sisters, makes a very good salary. She works in Atlantic City. That's where she's from. But there's a lot of people who are looking to change their occupation. I think, but I could be wrong.
Well, let me ask you, because John.
Here, Don Lemon comes in and tries to save him. Check it out.
John is looking to hire people. He's got 39 restaurants across the country.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to help him out? I mean, he's got to get people in.
Here was the question, Biden. What are you gonna say?
Well, John, first of all, the thing we did to help John and the Johns out is provide billions of dollars to make sure they could stay open. Number one. So
Here's what we did for you already. So why aren't you grateful, peon?
all contributed to making sure John could stay in business.
Audience, clapping seals. God.
And we should have done that, as we did for other industries. But secondly, John, my guess is that people being $7, $8 an hour plus tips, that's, I think, John, you're going to be finding $15 an hour or more now. But you may pay that already.
Well, let me ask you, because everywhere.
Don Lemon knows that this guy John's going to have some sort of answer that Joe Biden's not going to answer. So, Don Lemon, I'm going to interrupt everything again so you can't make Joe Biden look bad.
Where I go, there isn't a pretty much a shop in my town, a restaurant or whatever, where there isn't a for hire sign. We trying to check into the hotel. They couldn't get the rooms cleaned fast enough because they can't find staff. You mentioned something. You said we're going to end the things that may be keeping people back. You think that's the unemployment benefits?
Well, that was
expanded?
argued it was. I don't think it did much, but the
Okay, anyway, I'm just stopping here. Joe Biden literally trying to argue that unemployment benefits are not keeping people from working. I mean, it's just everybody and their mother and their aunt and their dog and their parrot and their buried goldfish know that if you pay someone more money than they would make to not work, they're not going to pursue work. And this is something the Democratic Party has done to hollow out the inner cities, specifically the black community, for 50 years. And it's a major reason why there's such an income difference between African Americans and people of other ethnic origin. And it's atrocious. It's taking away people's agency. And it's something they did en masse in 2020 and 2021. And it's something that this administration is not acknowledging and not owning. Just like what Joe Biden said earlier, I am the first person to own my mistakes. This is a mistake. It's a mistake that's keep on going. It's something that Joe Biden is denying even being responsible for such a high unemployment rate. Just to talk about that a little bit, shortly after that, they did have a question specifically about inflation, saying, like, okay, so cost of everything is raising because you've been overprinting the dollar. 30% of every dollar that has ever been printed, plus 30+% of every dollar has ever been printed, has been printed since March of 2020. This government, as of this year alone, will be printing $6.5 trillion. So, no poop, everything is inflating in cost. No poop, the cost of lumber is up 400%. No poop, you can't get a burger for less than $8. A burger shaken or burger fries and a drink for less than $8 now. No poop, everything's more expensive. That's a major concern, and it's something Biden says, oh, this is only going to be temporary when everyone's back to work. No. Inflation, 95% of the time, is a one-way road, and especially when you get close to hyperinflation territory, it is especially bad. Last thing I want to talk about here, of course, Joe Biden has again not hid his true intentions in the answering of a question that is a very complex subject, which politicians continually pretend to have the universal answers for, this time in gun control. I'll just leave it to here, and then I will circle back, and then we'll land this plane right after this question.
Legal. She's an advocate. Her name is Andrea Solis Canto. She's a Democrat. Andrea, go ahead.
I used to be a public defender, kiddo. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you. So gun violence has been on the rise across the country. And as a recent student and young professional living in Over the Rhine, I've seen this firsthand. Gun violence has taken the lives of so many young students and young people. I'm tired and I want to see change that's going to make our cities like Cincinnati safer. So how will you address gun violence from a federal point of view to actually bring about change and make our local cities safer?
Now, I'm not being a wise guy. There's no reason you should. Have you seen my gun violence legislation I've introduced? As you know, because you're so involved, actually crime is down. Gun violence and murder rates are up.
By the way, crime is down. In what universe is crime down?
I'm the only guy that ever got passed legislation when I was a senator to make sure we eliminated assault weapons. The idea you need a weapon that can have the ability to fire 20, 30, 40, 50, 120 shots from that weapon, whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous.
Okay. Did you hear that? Joe Biden basically said the idea that you can have a weapon that can shoot over 100 rounds without reloading, even if it is a 9mm pistol, is ridiculous. So the solution for that would be remove all magazine-fed weapons. 95% of all guns are pistols, magazine-fed pistols, semi-automatic magazine-fed pistols. Are you going to go door to door and take people's guns? Are magazine-fed pistols now going to be illegal for gun ownership if Joe Biden gets his way? If the new ATF director who walked on the bodies of Waco, who is shot at people in Waco, he's going to be the guy to remove pistols now from everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a fascist state who wants to, now openly admits, remove pistols from ownership, and who openly admits to not wanting there to be any distrust in the government, and wants to, and by this attempt at a town hall, says that social pressure on your neighbors for doing things like altering your medical or putting things in the arm to alter your body makeup, because it's the right thing to do. Gina Carano was fired by Kathleen Kennedy from Star Wars because she said that what happened before in the 1930s, before World War II, I'm not going to say the H word, was that there were people who went out into the street to beat up the Jewish people because they didn't want to look bad to the government. They didn't want to be, they didn't want brown shirts to visit their home and think they're a sympathizer of a specific type of person that started with the letter J, ended with the letter W. This type of influence of pressuring society to turn against others who don't cave in to the idea of not getting a thing in their arm is very similar to what Adolf Hitler did to the German people before invading Poland in World War II. Because the idea he presented was, we're out of room, we need more room. You know what? Taking up a lot of our cities are these people, start with the J and end with the W. Let's move them. I'm not going to say we're moving them too. And you know what? We need more room. Let's just invade Poland. No, you still need more room. Let's just invade France. Still need more room. Keep going to Russia. If you do enough of this social pressure BS, we need to reinstill trust in our system, trust in our government, trust in our media. You need to talk to your neighbors. People on the right think we are drinking the blood of children. That is unacceptable. They are conspiracy theorists. Anyone against Nancy Pelosi and who doesn't condone to her beliefs in the January 6th Commission must be in support of the insurrection. Anyone who has ever minimized the idea of the insurrection to anything less than the biggest attack on the U.S. Capitol in 200 years is a conspiracy theorist. Any sort of questioning of any sort of election integrity must be a conspiracy theorist, even if there's hearings going on right now in Arizona saying otherwise, even if there is evidence that the machines in Pennsylvania should not be used again, and in an entire county in Pennsylvania, they won't be using any machines that starts with the D, ends with an M. No, it ends with an N. Yeah, so this divide of either you're with the system or you're a conspiracy theorist is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And Joe Biden, luckily, is such a bumbling fool that he didn't make himself look great. Anyways, that's it for me. I will catch you guys in the next one.